So, a lot of people tend to ask, how do you build a 1 for Commander? This is one of those decks that I would classify as a 1. Um, Architect is classified as a 2, but the main premise we went into this deck with was for Trash Pandas, trash is treasure. So we decided to do just that by putting plenty of our little Trash Pandas here into this deck, along with plenty of cards that will create treasure tokens or benefit off those treasure tokens. So there is plenty of ways to get plenty of mana in this deck, but we do run only dirty lands because, as you can see here, there are also 30 different ways that we could ramp in this deck. And also Muerra themselves will benefit off of each little trash panda that we have here as well, making it so that we get even more ramp off that. But we'll be getting here into the deck profile now. So, in order to deal some damage to our opponent, in order to gain life, we want to spend 4 mana a turn, and in order to make sure we have more cards to cast every turn, we want to spend 8 mana every turn. So we do run some big spells in this deck. We do just run a lot of cards that are just trash pandas themselves, and just cards that benefit off of having that typal strategy, like cards like Banner of Kinship or Brambleguard Veteran. We do want Muerra to stay around, so we run cards that will protect it like Ranger's Guile or Snakeskin Veil in this deck. But like I said, the main focus we have here is treasures. Scrappy Bruiser does make so that we could get a little bit of trample off. Teapot Slinger does 2 damage to each opponent every time you spend 4 mana for a turn. But that's the other thing with this deck is we want plenty of mana, but it'll help us deal our effects by doing such. We'll also be able to bump up our abilities by spending 4 with cards like Junkblade Bruiser, Raccoon Rallier, and Roughshod Duo. This one just gives haste, but sometimes we just need to swing in with a 4/5 Trampler when we have Raccoon Rallier on the board. In order to have that ramp and those treasure tokens, and just other ways of creating mana, we have cards like Alchemist Talent, which will also burn out our opponent if we do manage to keep it around long enough and have plenty of treasures there on the board. Arcane Signet, just for some good mana. Bootlegger Stash, in order to get those treasure tokens every turn by tapping our lands. We don't have anything else we need to do. Brass's Bounty, create a treasure token for each land you have. Normally it'll be at least 7, but sometimes it could be less if you have Muerra on board. But normally there's other ways we can benefit off that as well. Brazen Collector is a trash panda that does give you extra mana. Captain Leonard Storm gives you that treasure token along with having a haste themselves. And whenever you sacrifice a treasure token, you give it +1/+0, which could potentially be a lot of damage if your opponent doesn't have anything to protect themselves with. Explore, draw a card, get a land. May as well, because eventually when we do exile cards, we're going to have more than 1 land in the exile zone, which isn't that likely because we only have 30 lands in this deck, but never say never. Where were we? Well, Varseek in order to get some more lands onto the board. Felwar Stone, because 2 mana, get a extra mana. Helps us get to that 8 mana faster so we can start exiling cards. Golly Greeters, create a treasure token. Gilded Lotus, get that 3 mana on board by spending 5. That gets you to 8 right there. Greater Tanuki, this one's a dog and not a trash panda themselves, so that one I was a little bit surprised by, but it does get you a land and it does have trample, so it does benefit you there. Gruul Signet for that extra mana. Hoarding Ogre for that treasure token. Hugs, Grizzly Guardian, extra cards that you could play out of exile, making so you get more stuff on board, and also has trample and a bonus land. Corvold, the Noble Thief, extra cards to cast from exile, along with creating those treasure tokens. Helps out there a bunch. Patrick Banner gives us a little bit of a boost to our stats, so we could deal a little bit more damage. So maybe we could deal enough damage to win. But also creates that mana. Prosperous Bandit creates treasure tokens themselves when they attack. And it specifically has to be this creature to deal damage, not any of your creatures. So that's something to keep in mind there. Rain of Riches gives your cards Cascade if you do use your treasure tokens to cast it, which with all the treasure tokens we have, we're going to get that at some point. But you do also have to cast it from your hand, I believe, on this one. Actually, no. Sorry, I'm thinking of a different card we took out of this deck. Rapacious Dragon to get those treasure tokens, and just a flying creature because we don't have many things that could protect us against dragons. Rocketeer Boost Buggy in order to get that treasure token. Rose Room Treasurer. It'll deal that damage eventually if we use treasures to cast things. Um, Ruby Daring Tracker for that extra mana with the haste. Season of Bold. Create 5 treasure tokens. Exile top 2 cards of your deck twice and create a treasure token. Or you could, until the end of your next step, whenever you cast a spell, Season of Bold deals 2 damage. Which that you can only do once, but eventually with how many treasures we have and how much mana we could have with this deck on board at a time, it could deal a lot of damage there. Simian Spirit Guide, or to get our commander out a little bit faster. Soul Ring, Talisman Impulse, uh, Trail Tracker Scout, in order to get that little mana dork on the board. Wandertail Mentor, another mana dork, and also +1/+1 counters make himself stronger. And Zoran for more treasures off of our treasures. Then we run some cards that have +1/+1 counters on them, but mostly because a Changeling is also a Trash Panda. Sylvan Scavenging makes it so we get those tokens and those counters as well. Peerless Recycling does have a Trash Panda there on the art, and also gets ourselves back from our graveyard. So like I said, it's a 1. We're not really like trying too hard here with this deck. Let's move this over. Bark Knuckle Boxer, expend 4, gets it indestructible. That helps us out, having a creature on board every turn. Aberrant, destroy target artifact enchantment that player controls whenever this creature attacks. A little bit of removal helps. Same with Decimate, Keen-Eyed Curator. Decimate is a card that may make this a little bit more powerful, so you may want to take this out because people don't like getting their lands removed. Can't blame them. Keen-Eyed Curator, exile your opponent's graveyard, at least have some counterplay. Mawlock for a little bit of removal by having it fight an opponent's creature, and also 1 card to draw power if you needed it. Pyre Hawk to steal your opponent's soul rings. Reclamation Sage to get rid of your opponent's enchantments and artifacts. Scrap Shooter, same thing. Warstorm Surge. I mean, it was in the pre-con for Bellow, so I just had it lying around to put in here. And we need some way to win the game, right? Abundance in order to get that little bit of draw power and decide what we want to draw. Because sometimes you get to a certain point where you have so much mana that you don't need a land, so that'll help us out there. Bellow, once again, it's another Trash Panda. Big score for that draw power and the treasure token. Byway Barterer, you spend 4, draw 2 cards. Count on luck, make sure that while you don't necessarily need to cast cards from your hand, you do need cards to cast, so you may as well take them put them in exile to do that. Garruk's Uprising, so we can give our creatures Trample. Harmonize for that little bit of draw power, so we have more cards to cast, so we can get that 8 mana. Same way it would Hoarder's Overflow. Icon of Ancestry, because we didn't have any more of the Door of Destinies type of cards, or I didn't hear the other card, the Banner card. I'm sure you know it. Outpost Siege, once again, same thing as where did it go? Count on luck. Exile the cards, get more stuff to cast. Sazakev's Brew, draw power, Spinner Souls. Eventually, when our creatures do get destroyed, we need something to replace them with, so we may as well get them off this. Terrace Light Shatterer, exile cards from your graveyard in order to make sure you can play them. Kami Manufacturer, this way when we create those treasures, we'll also get food and clues so we get more draw power, and potentially life gain because we need some way to protect ourselves. Maskwood Nexus, I mean, it's a mask, and they're Trash Pandas. You need that in here, and also it also benefits the commander greatly in this deck. Rush Shield Rampager, the Offspring ability also helps out this commander a lot by having more Trash Pandas on the board with that. And just as something to win the game with, we do have Darksteel Colossus in here. It's just a big creature that tramples. We're not running any of the Eldrazi, so this is still, I'd say, a fair card to run in here. But that's what I'd say would be a 1 to me. Make sure you leave your comment section of how you'd rate the deck down there in the comment section. What cards you'd change out. I mean, this deck has honestly gone through quite a few iterations for myself even. So, I wouldn't say this is its finest that it's been at. But thanks for watching anyway. Make sure you stay tuned to the channel for some more deck profiles.